Hello fellow gut nerds, and welcome to another episode of How to Build a Healthy Microbiome. I'm your host Dave Mayo from hackyourgut.com, and today we're going to talk about the differences between plant and animal-based proteins. Now, the protein in your diet plays a pretty important role in your overall health. It is used to make the enzymes that actually help you digest your food and enzymes throughout the body. You also use it to help build muscle so that you can be big and strong, and of course connective tissue, collagen, things of that nature. So getting enough protein in your diet is really important, but there's a little bit of a confusion in most people where they don't necessarily know, should they kind of lean more towards animal-based proteins? Should they lean more towards plant-based proteins? And today we're going to talk about the differences between the two, specifically with regards to bioavailability, how this has the different amino acid profiles of each have an effect on the microbiome, and things you might want to pay attention to help build that healthy microbiome and gut throughout the years. So the first thing we're going to talk about is bioavailability. So if you're looking to build muscles, the goal is to get the protein into your gut, then get it absorbed into your bloodstream so it can be distributed to the musculature. And it's pretty clear that animal proteins do seem to be better at that. They're more bioavailable, meaning we break them down and absorb them much better into the bloodstream. So animal proteins do have an edge there. Animal proteins also generally have the full essential amino acid profile. This isn't necessarily a knock on plant-based proteins because you can combine plant-based proteins to get all of the essential amino acids, so that's not really a worry there. You can formulate a perfectly healthy diet by focusing more on plant-based proteins. The other thing is that since plant-based proteins are less digestible, that's going to leave more amino acids for the microbiome in the colon. So if you're looking towards the benefits of amino acids for, say, the generation of butyrate, which we did a blog on and I'll post in down below in the descriptions, you're going to want to trend more towards the plant-based proteins. Animal-based proteins, we break them down very well and absorb them, which means there's not a whole lot of them left when they enter when we get to the colon. So plant-based proteins generally, when I talk to people, I tell them you should focus on both, get some of each, focus on the animal-based proteins for building muscle and enzymes and things that you need for your body to make, and then kind of toss down some plant-based proteins from nuts, seeds, legumes for your microbiome. Now, the next factor that is kind of important that most people are unaware of is the amount of sulfur amino acids you're consuming. And in this respect, this is kind of a knock on eating too much animal-based protein. So sulfur-based amino acids, we're talking about cysteine and methionine. We absorb a set amount of these. The transporters are saturable, meaning when we get the amount that these transporters can bring into the blood, the rest is just going to be sitting in the gut and it's going to get into the colon. Now, the problem with this is we have members of our microbiome that create hydrogen sulfide. They're called sulfate reducing bacteria. And the problem with having too much hydrogen sulfide in your colon is that it can erode the disulfide bonds between holding our mucus layer together. So that would thin out our mucus layer, make our gut a little less safe. We want a thicker mucus layer based on the data to kind of keep a level of separation between our epithelial layer, which makes up our gut lining, and the microbes that live there. And so having too much sulfur, too many sulfur-based amino acids into your diet is going to cause you to put them into the colon, which is going to increase this hydrogen sulfide, which is going to thin out the mucus layer. Additionally, hydrogen sulfide competes with butyrate, which is known as a powerful fuel source for our gut cells. So butyrate and hydrogen sulfide compete for the same enzyme in the mitochondria. So when you have high levels of hydrogen sulfide, actually what happens is our epithelial cells will prioritize detoxification of hydrogen sulfide, and that will cause them to not utilize butyrate, which is their primary energy source, and this can have a negative effect long term. Butyrate also plays a role in decreasing inflammation, but in order to do that, we actually have to absorb it and use it within these epithelial cells. So one other factor generally that you're only really worrying about it with red meat would be the amount of heme iron, which is not good for your microbiome at too high of levels by consuming too much animal protein. But I mean, I don't think that this is going to be a huge factor for most people eating a sane diet. I do think it's probably going to be a net negative for a long-term carnivore diet. Of course, it's going to depend on what else you're eating with that carnivore diet. Carnivore has changed from carnivore to more like, I don't know, I think they're allowing rice and honey and God knows what now. But just for those of us in the omnivore tribe that don't really kind of buy into these one side or the other, just make it a point. Consume animal-based proteins, consume plant-based proteins, just divvy it up a little bit, give some animals to your muscles, give some plants to your microbiome, and overall you'll see the beneficial effects on your gut health.